Hello and welcome to Beyond the Green Room. That beautiful music from the overture to Peter Pan has a special significance today because two of my guests are gentlemen that I worked on that show with. And it was the first time I was able to do it. And you always remember your first. So I'm very glad to have them on board. And this is our 23rd Beyond the Green Room. And not only are we streaming live on Facebook, but this will be the first time we are also streaming live on YouTube. So we'd like to welcome our YouTube audiences. Now, without further ado, I'd like to bring on my three wonderful guests today. And not in alphabetical order because of the way they're sitting. I would like to welcome the two gentlemen that I worked with on Peter Pan for the first time, Christian Saint-Girard and Larry Frenock.
Hi, David.
Hi, guys. And I think our poster is probably one of the ones behind there somewhere. Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful. It's great to see you. Let me bring on our third guest. He's the Associate Artistic Director of Florida Repertory Theater. He's a talented actor and director. Please welcome Jason Parrish.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad that you all could join me and that you're going to meet each other. So you're in Florida. I wish we were all in Florida right now. It's a cold day here in New York, but this too shall pass.
It shall.
Yeah. So what I would like to also tell that our guest, we did announce a fourth guest today, but he had personal emergency and won't be joining us, but we are going to talk a little bit about the project that he's involved with, and that is Nicholas Richberg, who is the managing director of Miami New Drama. So guys, what we do every week here, it's a little bit of my ego stroke and a little bit of getting the conversation started. We do 1 degree of David Edwards, and we talk about how we first met, how we know each other. And the story that I may tell is not the same as yours, and that's kind of what makes it interesting. So I think Chris and Larry better go first. You don't have to do it. You don't have to have the same story if you have a separate one.
No, I think we both met you at the same time because you came in and did Captain Hook and Mr. Darling for us in the aforementioned Peter Pan. And that was down at Gretna Theater in Pennsylvania, where I was the producing artistic director and Chris was our casting director and oft-times director and choreographer as well.
That's right. That's right. Although I have to say that, Larry, I think I told you this, that I remembered your face from years of going to auditions together.
Many.
And you guys were, I remember the audition vividly because I was in the middle of doing another project and I had to run away from rehearsals. I was doing a workshop of the musical version of Tales of the City. And I had to beg for the half an hour to run down and go to your audition. And I thought, oh gosh, what if they're running late? What if it's a total wild goose chase? What if they ask me to stay for 3 hours afterwards, you know? And it worked out so perfectly because Chris, you immediately said, who do I call to make you an offer? And I thought, well, that is the nicest thing that's happened to me all year. So it was bing, bang, boom. And I did get to play Captain Hook again after that. But as I said, you always remember your first. So I thank you for that experience.
We are very quick when we cast.
Well, yeah. And then I worked for you guys as a director the following season, and I remember how difficult it was at first to find the two leads that we really liked. But Chris called me and said, I think you're going to be very happy with these two people we found. And after hours of like EPAs, you brought in these two people and they were perfect. So that was another wonderful experience. All right, Jason, it's your turn. How did we know each other?
Well, you worked at Florida Rep back in 2015 and 16. And so I I wasn't involved in that particular production other than casting it. But my enduring memory of working with you was while you were here doing the musical about Johnny Mercer, we were also doing a production of 12 Angry Men that overlapped in the other stage. And I've been a longtime company member at the theater, and they said we need one of the 12 Angry Men to be in the dressing room with the guys for the musical. And I guess I was the only one they thought could be subjected to it. So I shared a dressing room with you all. So we would be in that room together. And I remember thinking, yeah, none of the other 11 guys would be able to take this room, I don't think. Not that anything bad was going on. It just was a much different experience than the jury room down the hall.
Yes, you fit in very well. You were not angry in the dressing room at all.
I was not as serious as the other 11.
No, and I have to say that, my first memory of you, it was on the phone, because when Bob Cacioppo called me to ask me to direct The Seafarer, you were the guy I spoke to on the phone.
Yeah.
You were very quick and efficient, and so it was another lovely meeting. I had no idea you were so young at the time. You were about 12, probably.
Yeah, about 12 or 13, sure.
Yes. But you bring that dressing room experience up. I remember seeing 12 Angry Men. You were terrific. The show was brilliant, as was everything that I saw that season at Florida Rep. One of the lovely things about doing the show in the small space, the art studio stage, is that we ran such a long time.
Yeah, like 13 weeks.
Yeah, and I got to see so many of the main stage shows, and it was, I don't remember one that wasn't absolutely terrific. And several of the guys who were in 12 Angry Men were in my cast of The Seafarer, I think, at least two.
Yes. Yeah, Craig Craig definitely was, and Graham. Yeah.
Yes, Graham, and who unfortunately we lost this year. Wonderfully talented actors, and I was very proud of that production. But I have to say that our rehearsal period, quite honestly, was not as joyous at times. We had 4 Angry Men sometimes. Maybe it was the nature of that angry Irish play, but
perhaps it's Connor McPherson's fault.
Yeah.
It was an uphill climb, but the result was absolutely delightful for me. And you also invited me to come down that season to MC the gala.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So I couldn't have had 3 more diverse experiences in one season at Florida Rep. And the gala, you had asked me to play Bob Hope and I couldn't think of anything that was more unlike me than playing Bob Hope. But somehow we got through it, and I think we raised some money for.
We raised some money, and the golf club helped, I'm sure.
Good. Well, I was working from a script, and I think somebody wrote a parody of "Thanks for the Memory" that we got through, and So we're all dealing with a very difficult time right now, but I whenever I talk to any of you guys, I feel kind of upbeat and warm. I think the last time, Chris and Larry, I saw you last year when I was doing a workshop at Amos.
Right.
And, so we also touched base before the pandemic. You guys were very much still at work. Larry, you were with Tectonic, or what's going on there? What are you? How did you negotiate that transition into semi seclusion right now?
Well, Tectonic Theater Project, so it's Moises Kaufman's company. And so I've been there since 2016 when I left Gretna and came up back to New York and ensconced myself back in the city, which is great. And the pandemic came along, and suddenly in March, we all went home and boom, done. So I snagged all of my financials as much as I could and grabbed everything I could think of that I would need at home, including our laptops and everything from work, and managed to work from home for a couple of months, got pandemic assistance money for the company, the PPP loan. We wound up getting all of that. That took us through June. And then because everything was working the way it was working, and the whole world had turned upside down, we all got together and literally decided that we needed to do layoffs. And so myself, along with a couple of other people, we departed. And then they found out, oh my God, we cannot get along without him. So I've been doing some occasional consulting work, which is great. The audit came along, and of course, finances are sort of my bailiwick. So, they were like, okay, why don't you take this on? And then a few other things here and there. But I've been helping out as we go along. And so the wonderful thing about it is that I'm still part of the Tectonic company, and still sort of their consulting general manager as we go forward, and continuing to work with them a week here and a week there in between unemployment and looking for other things. And at this point, that's all good. So it's a wonderful thing. And they've continued to work. So we've got a January 26th, we're doing 3 hotels with Bobby Cannavale and Marissa Tomei, and directed by Moises Kaufman. And that'll be a streaming event for a benefit for Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's even better than I thought when I asked the question. So,
and we have literally 5 new projects that are in development. So the writing is continuing, the workshopping via Zoom or via different platforms has been continuing. Everything has gone remote. We have indeed closed up our office, so we will no longer have a physical office in the city. But most of our development work happens in the studio anyway. So we're allowed to gather again. Right now, it's a virtual studio with people getting together like we are now. But then once we're able to gather again, we'll be able to do our work in the studios and just do everything else remotely, which has worked brilliantly. It's amazing how well everybody managed to make work, including our education arm. I mean, we've done Zoom moment workshops all over the country with different colleges and different schools. And again, all via this new technology that we've all had to learn so quickly.
Well, and that's it. That's what I say every week, that we've been forced into dealing with this, but we're going to come out the other side of it with so many more skills. And and yet we'll also appreciate being in the room live even more than we did before last March. It used to be a pain in the arse to go all the way downtown to do an audition and then a callback, and now we're going to just love being in the room where it happens, when it happens, for life.
Do you remember hugs from college?
I remember hugs, even pecks on the cheek, but that may be a very, very distant memory now. I don't know. Just being within 6 feet in an audition room would be nice, with a reader or a fellow actor. So.
Right.
And Chris, you were, I would say, when last we spoke, blissfully semi-retired, but also devoting a lot of work to another fabulous organization, the Metropolitan Opera.
Yeah.
So the Met has been on pause for so long now, it seems, but I don't feel like I miss them quite as much, because every day there's another broadcast of a vintage thing. Can you talk about that a little bit? It's wonderful. We love it here.
Yeah, so after all those years at Gretna and over 60 years in the business in every capacity, from Broadway to the casting and the directing and all that stuff, I really didn't want to do any more. I had enough. So when we came back with Larry's job at Tectonic, I did a friend a favor and took over a manager job at the Christmas show at Radio City for a few months. Semi-retirement, right? And then and then I went to, and then the Met thing just kind of happened, and I only worked there a few hours a week. I'm primarily engaged in fundraising, which is the big push right now. So as part of that fundraising, we decided that we wanted to keep in touch with our audience. We got so many great supporters, corporate as well as so many personal ones, people that have no money, people have lots of money. And we wanted to give back something. So since we can't do the live in HD in the movies like we used to do with the live broadcast, we can't do obviously the live performances. Someone came up with this idea of doing this, and it's been immensely popular. It's subsidized by some of the people that are helping us out. It's totally free to our audiences. The nice thing is it's every night until we can reopen the Opera House, hopefully in September if all goes well. And the idea is we kind of do like different themes each week. Like one week it'll be the more romantic operas, or it'll be the more violent ones, or the ones that, like during election week, we're doing things that were very political, like Nixon in China. So that's kind of the idea. But honestly, I've talked to a lot of our supporters on the phone. I'm doing that from home. I still do it a few hours a week here from home, which has been lovely. I can continue to do that thanks to our IT people. They set us up really well. I've been really lucky, and I've talked to people saying that how much they have appreciated what we're doing, and it makes them feel good that we're going to be back someday. So,
and that's available on medopera.org.
Yes, right? It's at medopera.org on our website on the homepage. It's just streaming, and every night we're doing, I said, a different one. And since it is streaming, you don't have to catch it right at the time we're streaming it. You can tune in for the next 24 hours, and if you don't get that, the next one comes up the following evening. But we're going to do that for as long as we possibly can.
It is a huge library of video, and they look fabulous. Some of them I'd seen before, but some of them were brand new to me. And we were doing it every day for a while here in this household. It's really wonderful.
Oh, that's great. That makes me feel good. That's good. Yeah.
No, I don't know how else we would. We've probably seen more opera in the last 10 months than I've seen maybe in my whole lifetime, thanks to that wonderful programming.
That's great. That's nice.
And Jay, you've been you have such a varied career as this is associate artistic director.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But also as an actor and a director, your resume is a long list of credits at Florida Rep and other places. But you're also now doing a weekly podcast or broadcast. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So when much like Larry and Chris were saying, last March, Florida Rep we had to close our doors when CDC guidelines came in. And so we had just closed a production of A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder that I was fortunate enough to direct. It was a huge success. And it was the last thing to open and close as scheduled at Florida Rep. Our production of A Doll's House Part 2 was about to open, but we couldn't open it. We managed to film it before, so we were able to stream it. But right at that time, we sort of were looking at the immediate future, saying, how are we going to engage our audiences? Because they would be coming here every night of the week. We'd be having upwards of 300 and 400 and 500 people here a night, and we were in the heart of our season. And so it was with A Doll's House Part 2. We said, let's do a virtual talkback to talk about that production. And so I hosted that first talkback, and it wasn't supposed to be more than just a few episodes. So we did A Doll's House Part 2, and we had such great attendance on Zoom that I said, well, why don't we keep this up? Let's do something every week so that people know that every Friday at 3:30 there's going to be some live something coming from Florida Rep. And so that first series of it lasted for 12 weeks. I did 12 broadcasts from April 10th all the way until June 26th. And then I said, let's take the summer off because like Chris and Larry were saying, Florida Rep had to make some hard decisions after our PPP loan ran out. And so a number of our staff got laid off or furloughed in July. And so workloads were shifting. I have to say that I feel very fortunate and lucky and grateful to have remained employed. So I thank the leaders here at Florida Rep for making that possible. But our audiences kept saying, we want Stage at Home back. So we came back with Stage at Home for 4 episodes in the fall. And a lot of our patrons said, don't give it away for free, put it behind a paywall since you there's a popularity. So we did charge, I think, $20 an episode for those episodes. And all of them are available at floridarep.org. The first 12 episodes you can watch for free on YouTube, and the 4 paywall episodes we've kept up on our website. So you can still watch those archives. And then after that finished, 4 episodes in October, we moved to our play festival, which was canceled in May. We usually do an in-person festival, which I'm also in charge of. So we had picked the 5 plays. We just never got a chance to perform them. So I got the playwrights together. We tried to honor as many of the contracts as possible. So actors who had been cast in it, we did it on Zoom. And so we did a 5-week festival. Every week we did a play reading. And so we were able to give those play readings their development and their time, and they're in the list of plays to consider for future, just like an in-person festival.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that's what I've been doing in quarantine.
Well, that's a lot.
Yes.
And I'm so glad to hear that all three of you are still working in that respect. I had a surprise in that I got an offer from Theatre Emery to do a virtual production of Lorraine Hansberry's Les Blancs this year too, and that was an experience. To do it via Zoom, and I was rehearsing with people all over the country, and one who was actually in Kenya. And we did stream it for a week. They did not charge for the broadcast, and I'm wondering if they maybe are regretting that now. But it was wonderful for me not only to do this play, but to get my health insurance, just eke it out by getting the 4-week contract that I had with them. So there's so many of us in Actors Equity who are depending on that and don't have that advantage. So I feel like the four of us have been very, very lucky to stay with our foot firmly planted in the business, and now with our sights on the future, and that's wonderful to hear. Jay, you also weren't you guys doing something outdoors now? A review?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As the fall got closer, it became clearer that we weren't going to be able to open our season as planned. So we did, like a number of regional theaters, we sort of lifted everything up and just moved it 1 year later. So hopefully, if all goes well, we'll be able to open in September of 2021 with the season we should have opened in September of 2020. But we were very fortunate a year ago to have purchased the building that we operate in, the apartment building that's attached to it, and the empty lot across the street. So we now own all that property, and it includes a parking lot and 2 grass lots. And so our artistic director and our production team and the city of Fort Myers partnered together to put up a stage in that parking lot and in the grass lot. So in November, we opened with a musical review celebrating the golden age of musical theater. Then we did It's a Wonderful Life, a live radio play. These are with our professional acting intern company. So we bring interns here every year, and we did still bring our acting interns here. And so they have been the ones, we've kept them in a bubble. They've been rehearsing and performing and doing these reviews. And those 2 productions were well attended, and I think in March we'll have something else on that outdoor stage. Our conservatory teens and young professionals are putting on a production of Godspell in the month of January. So we're excited about the outdoor possibility. So we're very fortunate that we own the land, that we could control our destiny there.
That's great. That's great. Well, outdoor theater reminds me very much of our experience at Gretna. I have to confess that when you guys invited me to come and work with you, I did not know until very briefly before we started to work that we were basically working in an outdoor venue. That you had a roof and some air-conditioned dressing rooms, but basically we were working out in an outdoor amphitheater, a very charming space, unlike any other I'd worked in. But I have to tell you, that was a challenging thing. I think we were in July or something, and I remember the Foy people who were flying Peter Pan and the other characters saying, well, we've seen more difficult venues, but not many. But you managed to keep it aloft, and
literally.
Before we go any further, I think Tony has a couple of pictures that we have of our Peter Pan. One is very, very tiny. It's the only thing I could find. You have to have your spectacles on to see that. The other one is a little bit better.
And I still remember you eating that wig at every performance because of the sweat dripping down your face. It kept sticking to you.
Yes, and I think the poor guy who was playing the crocodile and the dog Nana was just I don't know how he could get in and out of that suit and just not melt. I mean, he was soaking wet. And matinees, as I remember, were a particularly interesting experience because you could never get a complete blackout. And of course, there were a lot of kids for Peter Pan. And so they would always see us changing sets and God knows what. But I will tell you that I had it down pat where I could literally go into my dressing room, pop off the hat and the wig in one piece and stand there in front of the air conditioner until my next entrance. And so I had it better than most, with that big curly wig. And our Peter Pan had a much more difficult time of it. But I still remember it being a lovely experience. My niece and 2 nephews got to see me for the first time on stage during that production. So I will always treasure that.
Well, I'll tell you, I was there for 10 years, and when I first went in there for my first interview, it was January. And so snow on the ground, ice everywhere. The place was completely closed down. And of course, freezing cold. It was a summer theater. And they said, okay, well, would you like to go see the theater now? And I went, oh, great, terrific, can't wait. And we get there, I went, wait, this is open air? What? I had no idea until I was literally in the space that it was an open air theater. Nobody thought to mention it at the time.
Well, it was a shock to me. It was also a rather unique open air space because I worked at another place in Ohio that was like that, but it was in a park. Yeah. And in Gretna, you have all these residences almost ringing the outside of the theater. So people could almost see it from their porch. And people were walking around back there, and
ice cream cones.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And you had curtains that we could close, but it was stiflingly hot if you did. So we tried to leave them open. And the following year, you invited me to come out and direct an Agatha Christie piece, which that's really hard to do when you can't get a blackout in a matinee too. Yeah. But somehow we managed. I was very proud of that one too.
They try to drag the body off while nobody's looking.
Yeah, it was unique. Yes, Chris?
I wanted to share one thing about the heat. I don't think she mind me telling this story because we're good friends. Sally Struthers came to do, we brought in Dan Gogner to bring in one of the big anniversary productions of Nonsense. And Sally came in to do Mother Superior, of course. And she cannot tolerate heat. Even when it's 50 degrees out, she's in shirt sleeves. So she literally had her dressing room air conditioned, like you said.
And of course, it was 85 degrees out.
And my fondest memory is going backstage. I had to tell her something, and I went back to her dressing room at intermission, and there she was sitting there with her habit propped up like this and a fan blowing directly under her habit. That's her memory of Gretna. We offered her to come back a couple of times after that. She said, "Oh God, guys, I love you, but I can't take the heat."
Well, thinking about our personalities, of course, not the theater.
Exactly.
I'm sure that's what it was.
Of course.
No, you guys were very easygoing to work with, and it's great that you. My recollection also is that because that theater was around for so long, you guys, when you took over, you really amped up the professionalism and the the production values, and you did a great thing for the 10 years that you were there. That's really wonderful. And you worked in tandem so beautifully, and boy, isn't that a gift to be able to work with your partner, right? How many years have you guys been together? I think I know, but
yeah, well, we're in March, it'll be 42 years.
Oh my gosh.
But we're legal 6 years as of this last December.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah, we're very lucky, or stupid, one of the two. We can't figure out which.
No, Tony and I work on projects all the time, but there's always some bickering, but there's a wonderful advantage to being under the same roof too. You can have a business meeting at almost any time. Right. Which may or may not be good, but it's been great that he is producing this show and so many other shows virtually right now, and so we're very fortunate. But Larry, I wanted to ask you too. You what came first, the performing or the skating?
Oh no, I didn't start skating till I was in my late 30s. It was the
Oh
first.
my gosh! But you've been a competitive skater for a long time. Are you still doing that?
They call it U.S. adult figure skating, and what that really means are seniors figure skating. In that way, that means age as opposed to ability. No, Chris actually bought me. We were watching skating on TV, and we'd always enjoyed it, and I've always loved it. And because I was not performing any longer, and I missed the activity, I missed the artistic end and the dancing end of it. So he got me a couple of gift certificates to a local rink, and he's been ruining the day ever since because they threw me directly into lessons when they realized that I could actually stand on my own 2 feet on the ice, so wound up competing all over the country. I've been to about a dozen U.S. nationals
and he's
on the
too,
adults.
He's too modest to say it, but he's actually an 8-time national gold medal winner.
Yeah, at my level.
At his level, yeah, but that's still something, especially since he's only been doing this about 30 years or so.
That was great fun. Something that was a nice artistic and dance kind of outlet for me after that. So that was great.
That's wonderful. But you had a dance background, so that's.
Yeah, I started out as a actor, singer, dancer. Began as that for many years. Got to do a bunch of stuff all over the country. Then transitioned into stage management. Then transitioned into company management. Transitioned into finance. Transitioned into marketing. Transitioned into general management. Transitioned into managing director. Then producer, artistic director. So
we'll stay tuned for your next transition. Chris, you did the same thing. You were a performer for many years. And
yeah. I started at age 3 dancing and got into like local television shows and lots of commercials as a kid. And then got my equity card in my early teens with a tour. Wound up going to Broadway eventually, thank goodness. Did a few things there. Did a lot of touring, a lot of stock, and in between. In my early 20s, I started directing here and there. I did an off-Broadway show, and I found I really liked it. And then I wound up getting more and more into stock jobs and dinner theater jobs. Like we share Westchester Broadway Theater in our background. I've directed there and performed there. So lots of those things. And then I found in my 40s, I kind of said, I've had enough of playing the juvenile roles since my 20s. So I basically, went into doing 99% of the time was producing and directing, which I really loved. And I don't think I miss about it is the people. I don't miss the hard work because it was an awful lot of hard work, especially having been a choreographer as well as a director. It's a killer schedule to do that. And I finally said, okay, I've done several hundred shows. I don't need to do any more. I'm happy.
We're very Nicky Judy. The very first year we met, we decided, what should we do together? We should produce an off-Broadway show, and I'll star in it. You'll direct and choreograph it, and we'll produce it together.
And what was that?
Jerome Kern's Leave It to Jane, a 1917 musical.
Of course.
So we got to do that. It nearly blew our brains out, but it was one hell of an experience. It was great.
Our proudest moment actually was when we raised all the money ourselves and everything and rented the theater and did the whole 9 yards, made all the negotiations with equity and blah, 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 and designers. Our proudest moment, though, was that the day we didn't make any money, but we paid back all of our investors.
Yep.
So we knew we hit.
I think that's almost more important because that means that you'll have a second shot.
Right.
That's not to be sneezed at.
It did bode well for our future endeavors, and we've done a lot together. We were fortunate in running a couple of theaters together and a couple individually too over the years. But Gretna was our last big joint adventure, and we're very proud of what we did. And mostly, we're really proud of the people like you that we got to meet and got to work with. And became friends.
A lot of wonderful Broadway names out there, and you probably know I've worked with Danny Goggin as well on the Nonsense Dynasty, as it were, and that was totally unexpected. And he's a real mensch, to use a non-Catholic word, and and he's saved many a theater with his shows. And I can think of one theater where the green room is literally named after him. He provided all the furniture and the renovations because they did one of his shows almost every other year, and
that's right.
Yeah. Well, I think what we're all saying here, I mean, Jason, you are living proof of that, even at your
Tender
young age in your career, that you must do many things, and you must go where the invitation leads you. And
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I would never have thought I'd been part of the Nonsense dynasty, but I left the door open, and it provided me many opportunities over the years. And I looked at your resume, and I'm surprised how many of the same projects we've done, even the same roles over the years. I mean, you wouldn't think of it. Look at us, but we both did 39 Steps. We both played Ernst and Cabaret at one point or another. And I talk about Westchester Broadway Theater, the much lamented. They went under this year after all these years.
Yeah.
And the last time I saw Bill Stutler, he said, I'd love to do that murder show. And he said, but nobody would come. Nobody would buy a ticket. And he said, but if anybody could do that role, it would be you. And I thought, well, I'll keep that in my heart. No, I did not get a chance to do it now. But certainly Florida Rep took a chance on it. And did it do well at the box office?
Which one are we talking about?
I'm talking about A Gentleman's Guide. Oh, he referred to it as the murder show.
Oh, it was terrific. The secret to it is to play it truthfully, right? So we have this remarkable actor, Marcus Stevens, who played the Dysquith family, relatively young, and he, we auditioned so many people for it, and so many people did great work. But I think Marcus brought this humanity to it that made each of those characters so relatable, even though they're, completely deplorable humans. But, he didn't take it over the top, I think, which makes a huge difference. It wasn't camp, which makes a big difference with that play. And but our whole leading cast, David Darrow, Gail Bennett, Alex May, who played the three lovers, and Monty, they were all just perfect for the parts and perfect for that moment in time, and then a beautiful set. And it was a simple set, but a very complicated set all at the same time, and something beautiful and lavish to work with. But it was just a remarkable experience, and it did really well at the box office.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it did really well, and we were sold out for weeks, and it was when the pandemic was just starting to make headlines in the U.S. That's when that was the canary in the coal mine for me. Was the closing day, was standing room only. You couldn't get a ticket for it. And then but that day there were about 40 ticket envelopes that the box office had that people didn't pick up their tickets. And so I thought that's not normal. There's unusual. And then the day after that closed on March 7th, we started to see the studio show. People weren't showing up to get their tickets, and it was like, oh, this is coming. This is here. People are hearing the message, and they're not coming to the theater. So I think all of us feels incredibly grateful that we were able to get Gentleman's Guide in under the wire and brought joy, and it was able to sustain so many people through the next few months, just remembering that experience. But yeah, it did really well. And you would be great in it.
Well, that's why I was hoping that if Westchester were still around, I could have convinced Bill Stutler to do it next season. But the thing about dinner theater too is that it arose during a time when I think at its peak during the 70s, especially in this area around New York, where people were afraid to go into Manhattan. And so having an all-inclusive evening in their own backyard was very, very popular. But things changed. People became foodies, and New York became an easier place to get into again, and theater became a different kind of event. So it was remarkable that they could stay alive as long as they did and get so much wonderful talent out there. And
it was amazing. I at one time was the associate producer at the Darien Dinner Theater up in Darien, Connecticut.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so I worked with Jane Berger there. But that was a 600-seat dinner theater, literally 45, 50 minutes out of Manhattan. We would rehearse the shows in New York, and then the actors would literally commute to the theater. And we would get to do things. It was amazing because we were just enough outside of the city. We did 42nd Street while it was still running on Broadway. It was astounding. I mean, Randy Skinner came in and I got to be in the show, which was another astounding thing, but as the worst dancer in the company. But it was incredible, though, that we would get an opportunity to do those kinds of things. I mean, we did La Cage while it was just about ending on Broadway, things like that. So it was dinner theaters were incredible at the time, but you're right, the tastes changed dramatically. In terms of especially food, people wanted something more high end. They wanted more of an experience on that. So it was a loss, though, to so many of us actors in the world. Yes. Many, many work weeks while you could live at home in New York. It was great.
That's exactly it. And to sleep in your own bed and still get a salary for several months and, be able to go to auditions during the day. That was a much coveted and now lamented law. It's something that we in the New York area have a big understanding of. I love having guests who are from different parts of the country. Jason, where were you from initially?
Ohio. So I grew up in Ohio. I lived in Columbus mostly, the suburbs. Had a great high school theater program, which I think is what set me up for success, I suppose. We did so much good theater, and it was just great training. Then went to college for it at a small liberal arts college in North Central Ohio called Ashland University that had a great theater program at the time, and then came to Florida Rep to be an intern in 2005. I was supposed to be here for 9 months. And at the end of that year, things went well. I was asked back to work in the administration staff and to be a resident, like an artistic associate. And I got my equity card that year doing Moon Over Buffalo, was my first equity gig, playing Howard the Weatherman. And then they asked me back for a third season, and at the time the associate director left after that year, and we had worked together for some time. So I sort of took over her job. I just was at the right place at the right time, and so things have worked out incredibly well. I'm in my 16th season here, but still managed to go away and do other things. 39 Steps I did at Theater by the Sea in Rhode Island. I helped to reopen that company with Ocean State Theater Company in 2007 and 8. So I was there when we brought that barn theater back with Amy Turner, and so I got to do 39 Steps there in 2011. So they were experimenting doing a late summer show, and in Rhode Island, the issue wasn't the heat; it was that it got really, really cold in September, and so we were doing 39 Steps, sort of shivering in the wings, and then running out to do our clowning, I suppose. So that's so I still managed to get out and do other things. Have done a few things with the New York Philharmonic and their Young People's Concert Series. So yeah, but I'm originally from Ohio and came to Florida for an internship, and it's stuck.
Well, yes, you have to be at the right place at the right time. You also have to have the talent and the skills, the humility, and the well, yes, you can be humiliated.
Yeah, well, there's that.
That's what happens when you think of two words at once. I'll warn you, that's what can happen. But yeah, it's a mix of talent, preparedness, and opportunity, and I think that's what we can all attest to in our journeys in this business. And I worked in Columbus at Players Theater Columbus. Were they around when you were still there?
I know the name, but I know that they're not there anymore.
Yeah, I was there when they ended. Put it this way: it was a company that began as a community theater, and very quickly, when they were given an opportunity to move into a new space that was provided by the state in the state capitol, that was like state of the art, grew into a huge professional company. And maybe they grew too fast, but there were some problems. I went out and did Cabaret, the one when I played Ernst. And the following year, I went out to do a production of Maury Eston's Phantom that was very lavish. And were spending a lot of money on. And the Nederlanders were actually interested in touring afterwards. And the local TV company was filming sections of our preparation, building the costumes, rehearsal video, all of this. And something fishy started to happen during the process, and checks started to bounce, and people had to be walked to the bank to cash their checks. And the day of the last on stage before the tech rehearsal, 10 minutes before the end of rehearsal, the director came in and said, "We've been asked to stop." And the theater had literally gone belly up. There were people in the hallways crying from the staff. We had to be walked into the theater to get our belongings by armed guards so that we didn't take anything out of the theater. Some people did not have tickets home. Some of us did, and I was the deputy. And put it this way: if you want your theater to, have a very happy or your production have a very smooth transition, don't make me the deputy, because it seemed like every time I was the equity deputy, something terrible went.
Noted.
Yes, it was, but that's the way of getting out of being the equity deputy, I always say. But it was, I came out very fortunate. I had a ticket home. I got another job immediately. Everything went smoothly, but unfortunately, the theater did go under. And the irony is that they used all that footage that they were going to use as a documentary on TV as news footage for the demise of this institution in Columbus, Ohio. So be careful what you film in your process too. So
yeah. From Ohio, I'm so old that I did the Kenley circuit. If anybody knows anymore or what that is anymore, they brought in major stars from television and movies, the old days, contemporary ones, and did all the big musicals from Broadway. They sometimes brought the original Broadway stars to that. And I was lucky to go there and do a couple of different seasons at different times and job in here and there. But that was an experience, and it was outdoors primarily. So, we sang with the bugs flying down our mouths. So I have fond memories, as tough as some of that was, of my days in Ohio. So I don't even think you even knew about Kenley, probably at your age, right?
Oh, I know. I don't know if Jason does, but I'm certainly old enough.
I mean, I know the name. I wasn't really paying that much attention to the professional theater circuit when I was younger. But I had an aunt who was a high school drama teacher, and so my way into theater was through her. And then just about the time I would have started breaking into the professional scene, I actually got the job in Florida and came here. So I've been out of it. I know the Cleveland scene and the Cincinnati scene, and Columbus is growing as far as professional theater is concerned. But you talk about degrees of separation. The first play I acted in at Florida Rep in 2006 was To Kill a Mockingbird, which starred Will Stutz as Atticus Finch. He had his 500th performance on our stage as Atticus Finch, but I know he was, at least at the time, he was the artistic director at Gretna. So, when I know Will,
Oh, interesting. When I was first hired there, I was there that first season. He was the artistic director, and then they switched it over to me the following season. Yeah.
And Will just, you probably know, Will just passed away a few months ago.
I had heard, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
well, Chris, working at Kenley, you had, as you say, some of these big stars. What were some of the star packages? Because I think it's fun to look. You say, "Oh, I never knew this person did musicals," or "I never did that." Boy, that's odd casting. Or "Oh my God, I wish I had seen that." Are there's some that you did out there that you can remember that were particularly?
Mine were all biggie people who were primarily known for musical theater careers. It's like I did Dolly with Martha Ray. She had done it on Broadway, and I did it with her. I played Ambrose with her. Did that, and did a package that happened to play Kenley. It wasn't their production of King and I, with Ricardo Montalban playing the King, and Sally Ann Howes playing Anna. So those are my experience with those kinds of people. But they had, they brought in people that you wouldn't really have thought. No, I didn't do the funny girl there. Oh. But there was like a lot of like TV people that were on shows like The Wild Wild West or something, and they come in and do. But they also did plays. They also did some straight plays too. So, but it was really incredible. If you go back and look at some of their history, it's amazing the people that worked there that you wouldn't have thought doing summer theater. Period, because it wasn't as Kenley made summer theater more desirable for names. He paid them really, really well and had huge audiences. They were huge theaters. But before that, if you did, everybody kind of, I did start this summer, and which they don't do anymore. Now it's like, I'm glad to have the job, anybody, But he did a lot, and it's two of them. It was two brothers, John and Frank, and they. John was the driving force primarily behind it. He was the real artistic guy behind it. Very strange people, I have to say. They were different, but they did.
Stories about that too.
yeah, very different. But they did incredible work and gave starts to a lot of incredible people too that were coming up, like myself.
Well, I believe there is somebody runs a website where they have all of the archives of photographs. You might want to look that up.
I have to look. Yeah,
because it's fun. You see some of these names that you say, "Oh, I can't imagine."
Yeah.
But then, the Weislers have been doing that in Chicago for years. So I don't know whether they got the idea from John Kenley or I don't know, but it seems to work at the box office. But
oh yeah,
sure.
Certainly, Sally Struthers has a home at several theaters where she gets to do wonderful roles. I understand she was terrific in Dolly, and of course, Danny loves to get her to play the Mother Superior, and she almost in the production that I directed of Meshuggah, they approached her, and she was ready to do it until she realized it was a different show than the original Nonsense, and she'd have to learn a whole new group of songs. So, because you may arguably say they're this 8 of the same show, but they're really not. They're a whole different score. So there's only still for me in that one.
Yeah.
I still have my. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Jason.
I grew up watching that VHS. I still have the VHS of Rue McClanahan and Semina De Laurentiis and Christine Toy. I have that. I still have that VHS somewhere in a box.
Yeah.
Is that this one? Is that the Christmas one?
It's the original. So they did. They filmed it somewhere on Broadway, I guess, or I don't know where.
I think it was at Cherry County Playhouse, which is
sure
around either. But yeah, they filmed. Danny had the good sense to, after the shows had been around for a while, film a video production. Some of them done live at theaters, and some of them done sort of halfway in the studio. We did Meshuggah at Queen's Theater. And we used the set that we always use, and all of us had done the show before, but we filmed it in front of a live audience, and then did some location shots because it took place on a cruise ship. And we had to do, I guess what they refer to in the film industry as a grab shoot, where you can just do it as quickly as you can, with limited permission to get that location and whatever. We had to board one of the Royal Caribbean ships at 1:00 in the afternoon in the port in New Jersey now, which is where a lot of the ships leave from, and film some exteriors. And so while the new passengers were boarding and about to sail at 4:00. So we were running around the ship. Luckily, I was in street clothes because my character was playing an actor who played Tevye. It's too complicated. But the ladies were all dressed in their nuns' habits, and we had passengers taking pictures of these nuns on the ship, thinking that they were going to be sailing with nuns who we never left with them, and we stood at the rail waving at people on the pier. There was no one on the pier. And the passengers would come to the side of the rail and thought, who are these people waving at? These nuns who must be on drugs or something are waving at people who are saying goodbye on the pier, and there was no one there. And then there was a section where the puppet, if you know the show, Sister Marionette, who appears every once in a while, had to go into the water. And so we had two of the nuns jump into the swimming pool on the ship in their full regalia and paddle around. And of course, it was edited to look like they were in the ocean. So it was quite the experience for the passengers leaving that day and for us. And luckily we got the shot. But yeah, it was,
that VHS.
I think that one was one of the later ones, so we went straight to DVD. But never in theaters. But yes,
I remember that Nonsense VHS opens with actual nuns. They must have done a similar thing. So they must have got actual nuns to sit around a table and eat the vichyssoise soup, and then they all pretend to die one after the other around the table. So that started early, apparently.
Yeah. I have a feeling I'm going to be in a hotel somewhere on tour, and at 3:00 in the morning, the local Jewish channel, because this was the Jewish themed Nonsense, is going to all of a sudden they're going to have a special program, and it's going to be our video of Nonsense and or Meshuggah nuns, as it were.
When I used to live in Connecticut, and Danny was filming the Christmas Nonsense in Connecticut and invited us to be in the audience.
Nutcrackers,
yes.
He invited us to be in the audience, which was very sweet.
And it was taped on Mother's Day, but they were pretending that it was snow outside. It was taped at Fairfield University in Connecticut, and they had fake snow on the ground and the whole deal. But it was actually taped on Mother's Day.
But he wound up in the tape because he was answering one of Simona De Laurentiis's questions.
The pre-show stuff.
So it was actually pretty funny. So he's forever on VHS tape now.
Well, people thought, because we had Nonsense, they thought we were plants, and I was like, no. It literally happened that when we all raised our hands and Simona picked me, and we just started going back and forth, and then Danny sent me a copy of the video saying, then it was video, not even a DVD. Sent me a video saying, you guys, you were so funny, I had to keep you in.
Well, many of us have appeared in the Nonsense dynasty in ways that we never would have expected. I think Tony was in the audience when we did Meshuggah Nuns out at Queen's Theater, and we can all come out of the closet now and say what fans we are of the Nonsense show.
Great. That man has saved more theaters with those series of shows. I'm telling you, made the box office for them for the year.
So could I ask a question to Jason? So what's your main focus now? You've been doing a little bit of everything. Do you prefer the directing or the acting, or kind of half?
Yeah, well, so I was an actor primarily here for a long time. I didn't direct my first main stage show until 2011. I directed True, the Truman Capote one-person show, and I had been in Santaland Diaries. We did it 6 seasons, so it sort of made sense to direct that piece. Then the Fantastics in 2013, when we had a newly renovated studio theater, was one of the first big shows I did here. And then was still acting primarily. And then it was in 2018, we had a leadership transition, and for a brief 6 months, I was interim artistic director. And so, and it was during the time that we were planning the coming season. So I planned to have myself direct a few things and not to act in anything, just because I wasn't sure how long that whole period was going to last. And I haven't been on stage in one of our shows since 2018. Cabaret was the last thing I was in as Ernst. I've been in a couple of our play readings. So of late, I've been focusing on being more of a director. But of course, I miss it. I miss being on the stage. I miss, the nightly getting to the theater for half hours. So of course I miss it, and I know I'll be back to it, but I've been focusing lately being a director and on new works primarily. I'm in charge of our new works here, and so work closely with the New Play Network. And so that's been a really rewarding, also another portion of my professional focus.
Terrific. Well, you'll be back on the boards. We all
I'm
will.
sure.
The light is at the end of the tunnel, and so it's coming up to the portion of our show where we take a little bit of an intermission. And today we have an intermission feature and a quiz question that is very timely. We have an inauguration coming up this week. I won't say any more about that. We all know the turmoil surrounding this. And our intermission feature is a moment from a Broadway musical that had 8 presidents of the United States as characters, and also 8 first ladies. And this is a rather well-known song from a big flop by 2 of the great masters of musical theater. And you guys, I'm sure, know what I'm talking about. But we will show this clip without giving away the title of this show, because it's one of the answers to the quiz question. And the quiz question is, what Broadway musicals have U.S. presidents as characters? And there's several answers to this. So while we mull that over, let's listen to Patricia Routledge, who a lot of you probably know from her performance as Hyacinth Bucket.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. That was a setup. And a lot of people may not realize that she's a 2-time Tony nominee for musicals and 1-time Tony winner. And she originated this role singing this wonderful song. This is, I believe it's Abigail Adams singing to a young slave to take care of this house is the name of the song, because the White House, this was the 1814 burning of the White House. So I think it's very appropriate, considering we are trying to keep our house from burning right now. So not to put any melancholia on this event, but let's listen to this wonderful performance and then discuss the quiz question afterwards.
Is the lady who created the run on Broadway. In fact, she created 8 runs because she played the parts of 8 first ladies. Will you welcome Miss Patricia Routledge?
Breaking, some the
So I think we got one answer, but it was incorrect. And it was, the answer was Darling of the Day. And that is a show that Patricia Routledge won a Tony for. In fact, she tied with Leslie Uggams for Hallelujah Baby that year. But there was no president in that one. And but there were 8 in the one that she just sang from. You guys must know what it was.
Well,
Chris?
I actually auditioned for this show. In fact, what I think is it's 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I had to. The reason I remember it is because I had to sing for the very first time I did at that time for Leonard Bernstein. I had never. I sang from subsequently for Candide, but I never at that point. No, I was really young. And I remember it was at the old Showcase Studios on 56th Street and 8th Avenue, a really crummy old rehearsal, but lots of memories. And I went and we all had to sing an aria, even for an ensemble. We would both prepare an aria from an opera. So I sang Celeste Aida, which was, at like 20 years old.
Wouldn't you do something difficult?
Well, it was. I'm not really high tenor anyway. That's where I'm really strong and comfortable. But it was the first time I ever had to sing anything like that for a Broadway show. You sang a Broadway song. That's what you did. But I know I was just about to see it, and it closed because it really did not do well at all. But there's some gorgeous things in it. It's just not a very good show, unfortunately.
Yeah, it only lasted a week, and it had Patricia Routledge playing 8 first ladies and Ken Howard playing 8 presidents. That's right. Anywhere from like the 1800 to around 1900. So if you can name 8 in that period, those are the ones that were depicted on that stage. Wow. But to have a show written by Leonard Bernstein and Alan J. Lerner, right. It was their bicentennial minute, because that's about how long it lasted on Broadway. It was in 1976. And Bernstein was very upset that most of his score was cut. So they never made a cast album. And so something like that is invaluable, because it's the only cast recording we have, although Bernstein revised it into something called the White House Cantata and had opera singers do it. So a lot of the music is preserved, but not in its original form. So what other musicals can we name that have presidents in them?
Well, I wrote down some notes. I made a list. So I came up, in addition to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, I came up with 4 others. 1776, if you count John Adams, but he wasn't president at the time of the musical.
But definitely that counts, I would say.
Hamilton, obviously. Annie, right? Roosevelt is a character, and Ragtime. Isn't there a president in Ragtime?
I've done it, so I don't know.
I don't remember the president being in it.
Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm thinking, but I just.
Well, there is, in a manner of speaking, because it's McKinley, right? Who they almost assassinate.
Right.
He doesn't appear, actually, but that's a good answer. It's one I hadn't thought of, and I was in it, so I ought to at one time. So, but yes, there were actually 2 presidents in 1776, because Jefferson was also a character.
Jefferson is in it, yeah.
Right. And then, well, I've got a couple. I'd Rather Be Right, which was George M. Cohan's comeback to Broadway playing FDR.
Yep. And Michael Cole got that one right. Yes.
Cool. And and the other one I can think of is Mr. President, with Robert Ryan starring it on Broadway. So those are the ones I could think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's more.
Robert Ryan played a fictional president who was maybe sort of based on JFK, although that's a little hard, because JFK was there. Well, I don't know if he was, but Jackie was there opening night. There are many pictures. It was an Irving Berlin musical that didn't fare too well, and Irving Berlin, maybe it was problematic because Irving Berlin was a Republican and didn't want to do a very faithful version of JFK, but I don't know. But there are actually a couple of others that I thought of. There was a musical that used music by John Philip Sousa, turned it into a score about the first Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt called Teddy and Alice.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I guess you could push. Yeah, Michael Colby got that. And you could push it and say that Tintypes, the character of TR, also has Teddy Roosevelt. But there's also a couple that I thought of that are fictional, like you mentioned in Mr. President. Of Thee I Sing. And
of course, the Gershwin,
Yeah. I played John P. Wintergreen in a production in Florida years ago. And I remember being addressed at a little bar on the beach as Mr. President. I won't go into the whole story today, but it's but yes, I did have the pleasure of playing that role, and Let 'Em Eat Cake is the sequel, where I think that he's in evidence as the president. But yes, thank you, Michael Colby, again. But I think Throttle Bottom also becomes president briefly in that one too. I don't know. But there's one that nobody has mentioned, and it was a show called As the Girls Go from 1948, in which the comedian Bobby Clark played the husband to the first female president of the United States. So that's a real obscure one. So yeah. Young Abe Lincoln. Yeah, well, but I think that played off Broadway and children's theater. Michael, you are a veritable font of information today, and that one is a near right on, but not quite. We're going to disqualify that answer, but all the others were fabulous.
And if plays count, there's also All the Way, which chronicles the Nixon and Frost Nixon, but you know.
Yeah. Well, I think there probably an awful lot. Abe Lincoln in Illinois. There was an awful lot of plays, but musicals was a little harder. But there were more than I thought when I put my my thinking cap on. So as we get towards the end of the program, I did want to give a shout out to our guest who was not able to appear today, Nicholas Richberg. He's the managing director of Miami New Drama out of the Colony Theater in Miami, and they're doing a remarkable sounding production of the 7 Deadly Sins, written by 7 different writers. One of them is a name that Larry, you will know from working with him. And they're doing this in a rather unusual way, environmentally, and using storefronts in downtown Miami. So we have a little video about the production. So we'd like to run that right now, even though Nick can't join us. Here's the video of the promo from 7 Deadly Sins.
Hi, I'm Michelle Hausman, the artistic director of Miami New Drama. 8 months ago, theater came to a screeching halt, not only across our country, but across the world. But I'm happy to report that here, at the heart of Miami Beach, theater is back. We're taking over Lincoln Road and transforming 7 storefronts on this very same block to bring you a unique, groundbreaking, socially distant, and transformative theatrical experience. We've commissioned a diverse group of 7 of the nation's top playwrights to give us their take on the 7 Deadly Sins. World-class designers will be transforming the storefronts into 7 unique worlds. Actors will be inside, you will be outside, listening on headphone devices and wearing masks. 7 Deadly Sins. Tickets at miaminewdrama.org.
Sounds pretty exciting. And I did want to mention that the promo says January 3rd, but I believe it's been extended. So those of you who are in the area, you might want to check that out. That's some live theater that is actually going on right now in your backyard.
And being his neighbor, I've been on a bunch of calls where they've talked about how they got all this permitted, and it's just remarkable what they've done in those storefronts. And every actor is in their own space, and they have their own air filtration systems, so they don't share air with the audience. They don't share air with the other performers. So it's pretty remarkable.
Well, that's really exciting. I'm sorry we couldn't have Nick here in person to talk about it, but maybe we will before long. Jay, I also wanted to do a little clip of you in action.
Oh God.
Some of the stuff that you've been putting out, and we've talked about it a little bit,
Yeah.
but your weekly show. And so here's a clip of Jason Parrish at work at Florida Rep as well.
Afternoon, Facebook Live. Welcome. Afternoon, and welcome to Florida Repertory Theater's Stage at Home virtual talkback series. I'm Jason Parrish. I'm your Associate Artistic Director and host for the afternoon. As we do every week, What in your view can theaters do to help us to heal? What in your view can theater do to help us heal? And how can theaters do that better on their own?
Paint the destination. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Show us through theatrical storytelling how it could be. Show us what's wrong with where we are now and how to get there. With some beauty and some joy along the way.
Yeah, that's really sweet. I love this question.
Because this audience for Florida Rep, they're so smart and they're so loyal.
We cannot wait to get back, and I dream about what it is going to be like to be in front of an audience for the first time.
I love you guys. I love all of you. And thank you for all your support and everybody that's on the call today too. We greatly appreciate it. All right, I'm zipping it.
Wonderful. It
Thank
makes
you.
me homesick for Florida Rep when I see that the front of your theater there. It's a lovely place to work. So
Thank you.
We will all be back at work before we know it. It's
I may,
but
a shout out to Michelle Hausman and the folks at Miami New Drama, because a year before your guest became their managing director, I was down there with Moises Kaufman, working on a workshop production that we have at Tectonic called The Album or Here There Are Blueberries. And Las Aventuras de Juan Planchard, which Moises wrote based on the book in Spanish, is slated. It was slated to premiere there this year, but COVID put the kibosh on that. And we're hoping that it'll be coming up in another year or two. So that'll be really exciting too. It's a nice synergy between the New York Tectonic Theater Project and Miami New Drama.
well, it's been great because we've had a lot of folks who are from the Florida pool of theater talent on this show, and we have some more scheduled in the next few weeks. And so I'm very grateful that we almost had two today, but we had Jason certainly doing the work of two or three, and so that's really been great. I know we've talked about what our plans are for up and coming things, but if there's anything else you want to let us know about, what does the Florida Rep season look like going forward?
We have our fundraising gala coming up in February, so that's taking a lot of focus, and we're pivoting to virtual again for a second season in a row. So a lot of our artists and talent will be on the screen there. We're putting together a couple of more highly produced performances from the cast of our $1 Million Quartet, who are over my shoulder. We'll have performances from the cast of A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, and many, many others, in addition to appearances from our ensemble members. So that's coming up February 27th, and that's free to watch. And of course, if you make a donation to Florida Rep, it's matched that night. So we're excited to say that every donation is 100% matched by some anonymous donors. So that's remarkable. Godspell, our conservatory program, is putting on an outdoor production of Godspell 2. In fact, they're doing Godspell and Godspell Junior on the same set with 2 different casts so that their parents can come and see them outside. And we're selling those to our mainstream audiences as well. And then we hope to be able to put another concert version of a Broadway musical review that's more contemporary. That might be coming up in March, though details are sketchy. And it looks like I might be sort of helping to, directing it and conceiving it and putting the professional acting interns in that concert. And then, we'll sort of stay tuned. As soon as we're able to gather, we're going to try to find a way to do it. And at the moment, we're planning to open our season with an Irving Berlin I Love a Piano in September, which would have opened last September. So here's hoping all of that gets to move forward. So get your vaccine, wear your mask, and wash your hands and stay away from each other. That's my public service announcement.
I can't wait to get the vaccine. And, it's been an uphill climb here, and we have a ways to go before we can all get it. But the sooner I can get it, the happier I will be, because I know that means not only am I going to be safer, but I'm also going to be able to go back to work in the theater.
Yeah, so
one of the projects I was offered last year has been put on a schedule and at a theater in Florida, and it looks like they're shooting for July. So I'm hoping everything will be copacetic by then. Yeah, I see. and Larry, you don't have too much to worry about at this point, because even after this, you can still work from home, which I guess is going to save the theater a lot of rental fees and real estate problems. And that's the only people upset about that are the landlords, I guess. But
right, unfortunately, it's true. Yeah. I have to admit, Art New York, of which we're a member, did some wonderful things in helping to really save a bunch of theater companies by literally negating their rent for the last 6 months of 2020. I mean, they've done amazing things. So I have to say I'm proud of them too for swinging with the punches and trying to make it happen. So that's all good stuff. I did neglect to mention that that January 26th, 3 hotels that Tectonic's producing, it can be seen at BroadwayCares.org. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that, because that's an exciting project that we've got going right now.
Well, we want to know about all of it. We want our audience to know about this, because this is all about reminding people the excitement and the uniqueness of live theater, live performance. And, today really does point to all of the things that we've been doing to plow through, and how, innovative people in the theater can be, and how we can make lemonade out of lemons, but still there's no substitute for the real thing. So we want to keep their appetites whet for that. The Met is certainly doing that, as we've discussed, and you guys have been such positive influences today. I really thank you for joining us here. I want to remind our audience now too that you can find us on YouTube, on Beyond the Green Room on YouTube. That's very exciting. You were the guinea pigs, the first ones who appeared on the live stream on YouTube. So we'll see how that all goes. I'm imagining our viewership will multiply and multiply as the weeks go by. As I said, this is our 23rd show, and thanks to Tony Javid, who produces this show and has done so much to get the show up on YouTube and to keep me on track every week. Yes, you can like us on Facebook, on my page, David Edwards Musical Theater Archives. And if you are a theater professional who would like to appear as a panelist, please contact us at beyondthegreenroom@gmail.com. And we'd also like to encourage you to donate to the Actors Fund, because the Actors Fund is the one who is taking care of all of theater artists, not just actors, people who work backstage and the directors. And, this has been an extraordinarily difficult time for so many of us. And we are among the lucky. But, even if you're starring in a Broadway show right now, or you were before the end of the when the theater shut down, the beginning of that, we're now going on 10 months, and sooner or later your insurance runs out, your unemployment is in jeopardy, your unemployment insurance. So and it may be another long time before those shows come back. There are a lot of artists out there that can use our help. So actorsfund.org/donate is a place you can go to. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today, and I want to also let our audiences know who's on the panel next week. Next week we have April Woodall, who is a wonderful actress and singer from the Philadelphia area, who I've worked with many times. Nick Corley, my neighbor Nick Corley, who is a wonderful Broadway actor and director and writer. And Richard Feldman, who is the artistic director of the Arts Center of Coastal Carolina, will be joining us. So we're going to have a New Yorker, a Philadelphian, I've said that correctly, and a South Carolinian joining us next week. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, gentlemen. So glad to spend time with you today. I love you all, and be safe, be well. And we'll see you again on the boards, I hope.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Thank you.